Welcome back to my series covering the Freedom Constitution, formerly named the Constitution of the Freedom Founders of the United States. In this video's clip, we will be covering Article 1, Sections 7 and 8. They're fairly short, so this should be a quick video. Let's get started. No law may be created that changes the consequences for humans who have already been convicted unless such a law replaces the penalties of such a conviction, and a period goes there. So what this is saying is that if you are convicted of a crime and then the law changes, that change in the law can't retroactively apply to you unless it reduces the penalty you're facing. So say you've sped, you were convicted of speeding and not paying your ticket, and then a law gets created that says if you speed and you don't pay your ticket, you're required to spend 10 days in jail. Well, if you've already been convicted of that, you can't spend 10 days in jail because that would retroactively apply to you, and that's not fair. You were breaking a rule that didn't exist yet. However, if you were speeding and you got a ticket and you had to pay $500 and the Freedom Constitution was enacted, then that speeding ticket would go away and you would have to pay nothing because the Freedom Constitution has strict limits on which types of revenue and how much revenue the government can collect from citizens and non-citizens of the United States. No person holding any government office by appointment or election is permitted to accept any gift, promise, contract, favorable adjudication, office, title, or other gift, assignment, item, or intellectual property, either tangible or intangible, that exceeds 1% of the median monthly income of the human population of the United States. Okay, and we see that word human again. And the reason the word human is used is because in our current legal system, the word person may extend to certain entities that are not people. Well, again, people may be extended to certain entities that are not human. So people and person, those have legal definitions currently. We want to make sure that these only apply to humans. And if you're holding a government office, whether you're appointed as a civil servant or you've been elected into the position, you're not allowed to accept any gifts that are more than 1% of the median monthly income of any citizen or non-citizen working in the United States. This helps prevent fraud, corruption, abuse, undue influence. This makes sure that civil servants and politicians are working for the people, not corporations, not business interests, not foreign interests. No person holding any government office by appointment or election shall hold dual citizenship unless such a person has resided in the United States for a consecutive period of 25 years, publicly swears a recorded oath of renunciation of all allegiances to all other nations, and has no financial, political, military, civil, or contractual, personal, or other interests in any nation outside the United States that holds the person's citizenship, except those interests that arise from and are required for the proper functioning of the United States government. Wow, so that was a mouthful. What this says is that if you are in government office, if you're a civil servant or you're a politician that has been elected, you cannot have dual citizenship. That is a strict no-no. And not only that, if you do have dual citizenship, you may be permitted to serve in certain circumstances as long as you lived consecutively in the United States for 25 years and you publicly swear, recorded, that you renounce whatever country you have dual citizenship with. And you can't have any contracts, any dealings or relationships with any foreign government, group, or power that may influence your work for the United States government or for the citizens and non-citizens of the United States. That concludes Section 7. So let's start with Section 8, which has prohibitions on state governments. No state may create any form of currency So you don't want to have California dollars and Arkansas dollars and people visiting California with Arkansas dollars and them not being accepted because all these states have all their different currencies. No state may accept any currency other than the official currency of the United States. So in much the same way, if California and Arkansas have their own currencies and they travel to each other, and someone from Arkansas travels to California and wants to, say, purchase a bus pass or pay a government fine, and they try and use Arkansas dollars and they're rejected, that's a big no-no, right? So everyone has to use the US dollar as far as the government is concerned. No state may create, join, or support any treaties, other agreements with any nation or other power that have not been created or are supported by the United States federal government. All right, so say we have New York and Paris. New York, the state of New York cannot make treaties with France or Paris or any agreements with France or Paris that are not supported or created by the United States federal government. The states do not have the power to create treaties or agreements with foreign nations. That power rests with the federal government because states are not their own countries, they're part of the United States. No state may create tariffs or other duties. And again, this goes back to how revenue is created by states and what they are and aren't allowed to do. So if you're traveling between Arizona and New Mexico, you don't want produce in New Mexico getting tariffed as it's entering in Arizona. Much the same way as if you have apples coming from Japan, you don't want Washington State putting a tariff on those apples and Oregon not putting a tariff on those apples, because Oregon and Washington State aren't their own countries. They're not allowed to create international agreement or international laws or international legislation. That's the job of the federal government. No state government may have any active duty military unless there is a war being fought within the physical borders of the United States. So the state government, they have the National Guard, the reserves, things of that nature, but they can't have an active duty military because they're not their own country. The job of defending the United States is the job of the United States government. So unless there's a war actively being fought physically within the United States boundary, and that state has to physically protect itself or help protect other states, there is no reason to have an active military within a single state. And finally, no state is permitted to engage in war unless there is a war being fought within the physical borders of these United States, or a conflict has arisen and war is likely to be declared, but the danger is too high to wait for an official declaration before taking action. Okay, so this kind of sounds like martial law, but it's not martial law, because this has to be war. It cannot just be civil misconduct or civil uprising. It has to be actual war, and it has to be within the physical confines of the United States. If it's not within the physical confines of the United States and it's not war, the state may not bring warfighting capabilities to bear within the United States. And again, this has to go back to the fact that the federal government is responsible for defending the United States. The federal government is responsible for wartime activities, not the states. And that actually, as you can see on your screen, brings us to the end of Article 1 of the Freedom Constitution, also named the Constitution of the Freedom Founders of the United States. In Article 2, we will be covering the executive branch of government. If you want to stick around, please subscribe, please follow, please do all the things, and I hope to see you there.